table want to start off with what they thought about why investors say no?
My name's Anthony. I work with tech startups, having their business plans. I'm an accountant, and I'm working with somebody here today. So, what investors say no, I think, is a lot of it's about personality. I think if someone comes in and one extreme are too arrogant, to the extreme they're totally unprepared and can't answer any of the questions, you're not going to get on with them. So a lot of it's about that, whether it's an angel investor or a fund manager, because you've got to have that trust and honesty there. Other things we said were the overall team itself. If, as you said, they're all saying we're all in charge, we all make the decisions, well, you've got to have a leader there who's going to do it. And if it's chaos, then again, you're not going to get anywhere. So I think it's that whole confidence in the team and dysfunctional teams where you think, well, no, we can't work with them. So I think that's where we got a lot of our points.
Yeah, definitely.
As well as business plans and funding and...
Yeah, but it's interesting, we haven't mentioned business plans and so on so far. There's a very human element to this, whether you get on with the individuals and actually, how they perform as a team. Thank you. Anyone else?
Yep, fine.
If we can keep doing this, the opposite end of the room, just to keep Patricia fit.
Hi, Graham Niven. I'm a business funding specialist, so I often try and put angels together with entrepreneurs. And I think, we've just been chatting here about it, I think one of the things that entrepreneurs do too much is I use analogies like speed dating. And you're not trying to marry them, you're just trying to get another date. And people focus too much in the future, trying to sell them the whole package in 5 minutes. And it's hard to do that. Whereas if you can just sell the fact that I want to talk to you some more, you're more likely to get an investor interested in you. So I think try not to oversell. You just want to hook them. That's what you're trying to do. Because trying to get them in 1 minute, in 6 minutes, or whatever long you've got, it's hard.
Yeah, no, that's an excellent point. And I'll come on to that in the kind of pitch slides. But all you're trying to do with a pitch or that initial meeting is just like Graham says, is get the next meeting. You're just trying to get them interested. Anyone else?
What did you guys talk about?
Where's the spotlight?
My name's Will, and I've got a tech business, and basically I just said it's dependent on what stage you're up to. So your angels are more about you, and if you don't fit, then that's a bigger issue. Venture capitalists, it's all about your revenue, so it's essentially cash, and that's how it's viewed upon in a basic nutshell. So. Yeah,
very true. So much more about personalities and are you going to get on with them, because the angel is going to be perhaps more involved in the business, but also you still get that human element in the VCs, as I said earlier. But yeah, you're right. The VCs are all about the kind of metrics and so on. They're really kind of metrics heavy, so they want to see the stats. Oh, sorry. I almost gave it away.
Well, I'm Stephen Russell from Shumi.io. It's a mentor app, AI mentoring app. We talked about two things. So one, obviously, credibility, whether they think you're an idiot or not, is probably a good reason for them to say no. And also evidence, often when you're actually making claims, and you're telling the story is important, but backing that with, this has actually happened, we actually did this, and the evidence that goes behind a lot of those claims, I think is probably quite important to an investor really being on board with whether or not this is the right thing to do.
Because you've got to prove your credibility, and that really reflects on your whole business. If you're not saying the whole truth in your pitch, then how is someone going to trust you enough to invest a lot of their money in you kind of further down the line? If no one's got any more, I'll just live on. These are just a few that I've come up with. I think the most common ones are probably the first three. So as I said, a lot of investors will meet you for coffee, have discussions with you, you might try and pitch to them, but actually they might not invest in your type of company. You might be B2C, but they only do B2B. They might be really focused on deep tech, and you're not deep tech. So they might not invest in your company. They might not invest at your stage, so actually you're too early stage, or too late stage perhaps, usually too early stage. Again, talking about that fund cycle, they might not have enough funds to invest in your business. And for an angel, they might have just invested in someone else, and actually this tax year, to get all the benefits of their tax, they have nothing left to invest. They might believe in your competition more than you. you might have an issue with your cap table. So cap table, I'll come on to it later, but it basically divides out who owns how much of your company. So when you're looking at who owns how much of your company, if you're at your second raise or your third raise, if you've given away too much of your company at that point, a VC, or certainly a PE firm, they wouldn't be interested, even if they thought you were great and your business was great, because they'd look at that and go, well, I need to take a big chunk when I put my money in, and then there's so little left for you and the other founders that why would you stay in this business? You're not in this business to take a salary. You're here because you want it to grow, to exit, but actually there's no incentive for you to exit. So there might be an issue with that. There might be other kind of issues with how the company is structured and so on. You've got there might be a fundamental thing about your business plan they don't particularly believe in, but I would say most of the time it's those top three, or maybe top four. I would come back to trust, which is that point that was made earlier. So I'm going to do a very, very quick overview of the legals and the kind of tax and so on, because this is something that all I'm trying to do is raise your awareness of it. I am not an expert, as people can definitely verify. I'm not a tax expert, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not an accountant, but you need to know about EIS and SEIS. And the bits that I tell investors are actually about the tax relief and how they can get it and why it's fantastic and so on. So seed enterprise investment scheme and enterprise investment scheme, for the person investing, individual investing in your company, they would be getting up to 50% of their tax back, so of the investment back. If they paid income tax of £10,000, or so if they invest £10,000 and they've paid income tax of £5,000, most people have over the course of that year, they immediately get back at the end of that tax year that £5,000, which is fantastic. It's like they're getting double the value. There's also loss relief, so if you don't work out, then they'll get some more tax back from that loss relief. They have to have held it for 3 years, and there's a million caveats, which is why they all go and get some professional advice. But it's useful for you to know this, so you know some of the motivations about maybe why they're hurrying you along, because it might be that you need to fall into this tax year in order for them to get the tax advantages. What a while ago, I mean, even just a few weeks ago, you were able to do as founders is able to go to HMRC and say, look, we've got this new business we're starting out, we're looking to get investment. Can you give us a letter, an assurance letter that would basically say, we've looked at the information provided, and on paper this looks like it would be EIS or SEIS eligible. So then you can take that assurance and go around and show people and go, if you invest in us, look at the tax rates you can get. And it's a great thing to have. They were being swamped. They were getting thousands and thousands all the time. So it was taking them ages to produce it. And in the end, I think just a few weeks ago, a lot of advice went out to say we will no longer be accepting speculative bids. So speculative people saying, I'm looking for investors, can I have an assurance form? They won't give you that now. What they need is at least one name on that form. So now you need to go and find an investor, and when you found that investor, say, okay, well now I've got your name, I need to go and find some more, but can I put your name onto my sheet when I submit it? Which is a lot harder thing to do. That's an important change. But again, going at some professional advice on this. So, this is a scary list of legal documents that you're going to need. The term sheet is a pretty simple legal document. It just sets out what you're trying to do. So the kind of basic terms of, I am founder of X company and I am raising X amount of money and for X amount of shares and so on. So really kind of basic stuff. And that would be the kind of foundation of all the other legal documents underneath it. So that term sheet can change quite a lot in that process of negotiation. As I said, your cap table it breaks down who owns what share of your company. So if you're raising £1 million, if you're valued at £1 million and you're raising £100,000, who's heard of pre-money and post-money? So, yeah, pre-money valuation, post-money valuation. it's a whole lot of nonsense. All it, pre-money valuation, if you're trying to get investment and you're saying my valuation is £1 million, that's your pre-money valuation. If you raise £100,000, post-money, your valuation is 1.1 million, because you've got your £1 million company that everyone agreed was worth £1 million, plus £100,000 in the bank. That's as complicated as it gets. The slight complication comes because when the investors invest, you actually get the cap table at the end of it is based on the post value. So you might be thinking, okay, I invest £100,000 in a £1 million company for 10%, but actually it's then changed because of the money going in. So it starts to get complicated as it goes along. You're going to have a due diligence questionnaire. This will sometimes be sent out by the investor, sometimes sent out by their lawyer. They're being represented by a lawyer. This will be a lot of the kind of legal due diligence about company number, where you're registered, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it will take you quite a long time often to fill that out. It will have that legal stuff. The investor themselves might also do due diligence around, what your tech looks like. So they might want to examine or get someone in to examine your tech. They might do other due diligence about you. They might ask for references from, 2 references per founder. All these different kinds of things. These will all be part of that legal pack that you'll be signing. So these will all be kind of stapled together. Investment shareholder agreement would be the kind of main agreement where it kind of sets out what kind of shares different people are going to get. So your investors might be receiving different kinds of shares, depending on how much money they're putting in and how much value they're adding. They include your business plans, so what you said you were going to do, and the articles of associations around that kind of reassurance. So that would be saying, you have said that you will be working in your business will be in technology, selling software in this kind of market. And it's setting that out so that if you decide to change, you're actually just going to sell coffee, your articles of association will basically forbid you from doing that unless you have permission from the shareholders. The shareholders might think there's loads of money in coffee, great, but actually it's a reassurance for them that actually what they're investing in is going to continue being what they thought it would be. Post-investment, you will never, or very rarely, will you pop a bottle of champagne open when you get your money, because it would have taken so much longer than you thought. You'll be absolutely knackered. The money never actually goes in on the day that you sign the contracts, and it's just like, it's kind of just drawn out affair where you're just like, glad it's over. But you immediately need to start thinking about what it's going to be like going forward. Relationship with shareholders is really, really key. It's really important to remember to be open and communicate with them often. Even if they're not on your board, don't assume just because they're not on your board, they're not interested in your company. So maybe send them board packs and so on. They're going to want more metrics. So you might have been growing your business the way you wanted to before and not necessarily had to prove metrics to yourself, but they're going to want to see how many sales, how fast you're growing, and they might just want to see it in a particular format. VCs will send you the kind of format of how they want to see that information, because they need to standardize that across all their portfolio. So you will get very restrictive things about, you need to tell us X, Y, and Z by X, Y, and Z. And that's no fun, because your fun is in growing your business, but you have to sit down and fill these things out. And then you need to start focusing straight away on your next raise. Okay, there is a comfort break. I did promise it. Does anyone have any questions before we go to the comfort break? Can I just also say a reminder about the tech class hashtag as well? Question down the front.
Hi, my name's Connor. I'm from Live and Now. I don't know if anyone's heard of it, but there's something called Seed Legals. Have you heard of it? It's quite useful.
Yeah.
It kind of puts everything in like manageable, digestible chunks and tells you what you need to get and stuff. It might be worth mentioning. I don't know loads about it. I've only just come across it.
Yeah, and I think so the legal side of it really depends on how much you're raising. If you're doing your first ever raise and you're only raising £30,000, it's not worth spending £10,000 on legals to only raise £30,000. So you might
I think
want
it's
to
like
use
£700.
Yeah.
And they give you like kind of everything that you need.
There's a
something
few
like that.
kind of online lawyers that can give you very standardized kind of forms that you can just fill in and assume that's going to work, rather than worry too much about getting some really lengthy advice from lawyers. But as you go on, you might want to get a bit more advice. But yeah, good point. I think we're desperate for a drink.
I've just one, just on the last thing that you were saying there about post-investment and the metrics that investors then continue to look for. Is that also standard? I know today we're trying to do expectations and pre-investment, but post-investment, is there standard metrics that they would continue to expect that they could?
Yeah,
Be aware
yeah,
of?
that's a good point. And actually, I'm just thinking perhaps Graham's next workshop could look at the. He's looking on his phone now. He's not paying attention.
That's
but
for
so
you,
we
Graham.
can. Yeah, I was just thinking, Graham, the actual metrics that VCs and investors want, particularly when you get into when you're raising decent amounts of money, might be useful to talk about that in the next workshop, if that's useful.
You mentioned before about 11% being the amount the founder is left with. Is there sort of an average amount that investors will expect, like percentage-wise, of the company?
Oh, so this is a really good question. So you've all seen Dragon's Den, right? And they go like, well, I'm only interested if I can take 50% of the company. If any investor says, I'll take 50% of the company, they're idiots because they'll just kill your company. Because when I spoke about the cap table before, you've got to keep everyone interested. So really, ideally, you would never give away more than 20% of your company in any particular raise. So early on, try and give away less than 20% if you can, maybe 25% if you're really pushed, but actually 20%, because if you give away 20%, next time you raise, another 20%, next time you raise, another 20%, at that point you might sell and you've still got a reasonable amount of the company left for you. But if you start giving away too much too early, then a VC firm will get you pitch deck, okay, take one look at your cap table, and won't even kind of read the rest. You're straight away on the maybe, but probably no pile. And that's really frustrating. And unfortunately, there has been a few instances in Manchester and wider in the north where we've seen some great companies not be able to do their Series A because they've spoken to all the VCs and they all say the same thing. There's nothing left for you because they want to keep you incentivized. So that 20% rule, and it's what I tell investors too. Don't be, your angels, not dragons, right?
It's great to hear that investors are getting that advice as well, James.
Yes.
Thank you. Back in one of your earlier slides, you was talking about the different types of investor and investments. And there's a recent kind of buzz around co-funding, and that didn't seem to be covered, but then you just reminded me about it when we spoke about 50%.
Yeah, so co-funding is, okay, so you...
Co-founding. Sorry, I said it wrong.
Co-founding.
Is it co-foundries, the ones that are doing the sweat equity? So probably like Cake Factory and...
So I'm talking about, co-founding a company? Yeah. Okay, so I guess when there's more than one founder of a company, you mean? Yeah.
The company says we can provide the team. So you're a guy all on your own with a great idea.
Oh, yeah.
We can provide the team, and our investors are used to investing into our team to ensure that your business is going in the right direction as Bill's really quickly. So for the almost surety of having a panel of investors who already invested in this team, and this team's got a load of success in tech, we will probably take in the region of 50% of your company to get you to the stage where you're maybe Series A, if you want to say that, or B. Now, you didn't cover it before.
No, and it's fair, because it is starting to become more common. So, and actually you see the kind of evolution of agencies where they were doing client work, and they now actually see people approach them and saying, I've got this amazing idea for an app or a website that will generate lots of revenue. Can you build it, but I can't pay you yet. I can pay you when I've generated that revenue, and you have that kind of discussion. Some of those agencies have set up venture arms, and other companies set up venture arms, where they're basically saying, you can't do this without us. So why don't, instead of you raising a whole lot of money, coming to us, paying us to do this, why don't we do it for you and take a pretty substantial chunk of your business? And sometimes they say, well, we'll take 50% of your business, but we'll give you 1% share in our business. So you're invested in us, and we're invested in you, and we share the revenue like this. I think as long as you are prepared to always be working with that business, so it's very unlikely you would ever get out of that deal and go and work for someone else, so you're really embedded with them, then it's fine. As long as you don't plan on, raising money from somewhere else, it's okay. You might exit together, and you've got to work out what their ambitions are for your business as well as you. So they might just see it as a cash generator rather than a business that they think is going to sell, and you can exit that way. So that means you're never going to see that big exit. You're just going to take a salary. And you've got to really understand the deal. You've got to really get some really good legal advice to make sure you understand the nuts and bolts. Because what you don't want to do is have someone almost take control of your business, and you're not actually, and they're taking a pretty large cut, perhaps more eventually than they ever put in, and you're just taking a salary and almost working for someone else, so you feel a little bit marginalized. So you've got to do what's right for you, but it is a valid way of doing it. I've seen other ones where a sales team will come in and say, you're a great business, great tech, and you're 2 or 3 techies, well done, but your sales should be much higher. We are a great sales team. What we'll do, we'll create a new company. We'll do a deal where you give us, we'll give you a stake in this new company, and this new company is where all the sales are generated. So we own half of it, you own half of it. You can keep your company. So you think, okay, well, I keep 100% of my company. It's a new company that do all the sales, and they take commission from the sales, and they own half that company, et cetera, et cetera. What that's doing effectively is moving your IP and anything of value over to a new company. So you can have all the other boring stuff, but that business is going to generate all the value. They own half of it, and they're taking a commission from the sales. And I would argue that's not a great way to do it, but that's only my personal opinion. You guys can have no toilet break, you realise.
So I quite like the idea of equity crowdfunding. Is there any things that you'd kind of tell me to be aware of? For example, if you're then looking to do a venture round later on, can that create problems? Could you give some advice around that?
No, I think equity crowdfunding can be a really good idea, particularly if you're B2C, because you get to talk to your customers. I think from an investor point of view, it can be a bad deal, because the valuation that they sometimes put in crowdfunding is arguably much higher than it should be. And often when they do raise, there are companies that do crowdfunding and then raise from a VC, the valuation is lower. So
that's great for us.
your money's gone down. So it's fine for you. Well, maybe. Yeah, it's fine for you, but actually for the investors in the crowdfunding, it's worse for them. But it's a really good way to market your business if you're talking to a crowd. Okay. It's a strange way to talk to your shareholders. Normally you'd be talking to your investors in a different way than you'd be talking to your fans, your customers. But in crowdfunding, it gets mixed up. But yeah, it's definitely a valid way. I think just be aware, just know all the differences between the different crowdfunders, know the fee structure, and talk to all of them, because sometimes they'll lower their fees when they're trying to compete with each other. So go and talk to Seedrs, Crowdcube, Investor, Venture Founders, all of them.
Thank you.
Okay, should we have a quick break?